So we have these two icons, which means you can literally switch off your brain if you use the right systems. And we have Bob over here, who is an overthinker. Bob is broke. He is lost. He is unmotivated. He spends hours a day on his phone. He doesn't know what he has to do. He has goals. But at the same time, every time he starts to work on his goals, he gets lost. He stops working. And we have John over here, my friend John, who's an underthinker. He's fulfilled, he's focused, and he's motivated. You see, before we begin, underthinking equals more actions equals more results. That is where this whole idea comes from. This circle over here is you right now, and this is you in the future, your dream life, the things you imagine. The dream life, you're not gonna want it as bad as you do if it wasn't in your future. So it is on the timeline. It is in the future. You just have to tap into it and realize that, you will get it. There is just one thing standing in your way, which is overthinking. This line I drew over here, it is overthinking. Overthinking is the barrier between where you are now and where you want to go. The only way we can overcome this barrier is to move around it. If you break through it, you're gonna inflict damage in the process on yourself, on the people around you. So instead, you need to move around it. And that entails taking action. Underthinking is a skill. It is something you have to train. And the better you get, the more you train, the more you practice. So this video is split into two ways to become an underthinker. And this right here is Joe or John. John. John is 100% an underthinker. He enjoys his life. He is focused. He doesn't take things too seriously because he knows that man suffers because he takes seriously what God made for fun. So in order to get out of your head, you need to go somewhere else. That is step number one. You can't overthink your way out of overthinking. There is no amount of thought that will take you out of your mind, your state. So what you have to do is you need to focus on something else, right? This is John version 2. He focuses on his life, his craft, his passions, and his missions. And at the end, he doesn't even have time to procrastinate. He doesn't have time to scroll. He doesn't have time to do anything. So he's just happy. He's focused. He's living with his purpose, right? You need to create. When I started making these YouTube videos, my life improved tenfold because I was creating. I was in the process of making something, in the process of becoming the best version of myself through creating. So you need to do these 4 things. You need to focus on something else. Could be a sport, could be your vocation, it could be anything, right? You just need to focus on something. And you need to create. You could create art, you could create music, writing, you could create a life plan, you could create anything. You could create your work. All of this entails creating, entails using your creativity and your creative faculty to achieve more. The idle mind is the devil's workshop. I'm sure you've heard that quote before, and it's true, When you're bored, when you have nothing else to do, what happens is you get distracted. You get in your head, you start worrying about things that don't even matter. The biggest problem is not having any problems. And once you understand that, once you become wise and you realize these things, it changes your life. So the idle mind is the devil's workshop, and you want to be as busy as possible. You want to fill your time up. You want to do more. You want to take breaks, of course. Time is our biggest asset. Time is the best commodity. The difference between me and, let's say, a billionaire in his 60s. The billionaire would be like, I would give anything to be in my 20s again. And somebody in my 20s, like me, would be like, I would give anything to be a billionaire. So it's like everybody wants what the other person has. The grass is always greener on the other side. If you're watching this, I'm sure you're between 18 and 30. You are going to have the blessing of youth. There are people who have everything you want, but they're willing to give you everything just to exchange your youth in exchange for what they have. And a really important lesson I've learned is if you're in a small environment, you're going to be thinking small thoughts, right? It makes sense. If you're in your room all day, if you're not doing anything, then chances are you're going to get in your head. Chances are you're going to start worrying about random things. So that's where this comes in. If you're in a big environment, you're going to be thinking big thoughts. You're going to be happy like John over here. Right? So you want to change your environment. If you're overthinking, the best thing you can do is to change your environment, is to go outside, is to move, is to do, is to see. You cannot escape your thoughts by thinking. You need to do. You need to focus on coding, focus on building, focus on, writing, focus on reading, focus on anything. So number 2 is realize that overthinking is simple. It is an excess of energy. So to stop overthinking, you need to use your energy so it's not excess anymore. You see, when you have a glass of water let me draw this. You have a glass of water, right? And there is water inside. If you keep filling the water, it's gonna overflow and then it's gonna start falling and dripping and it's gonna become a mess. So how do you stop this overflow? Is you drink water out of the cup. You put water into a plant. You do something with the water, with the energy that you're given. This is energy. I can't really write with this tool over here. You have a glass of water. It has too much water. You either drink the water, you throw the water, which would be a waste. Why would you do that? Or you put water in a plant, or you give water to your pet or something. Yeah, realize that overthinking is simple. It is an excess of energy. So to stop overthinking, you need to use your energy so it's not excess anymore. You can't get out of your head through thinking and analyzing. You need to let go, like this weird guy over here. Don't overcomplicate it. That's what your brain wants. Keep it simple. You don't need to think. Thoughts are not always essential. You see, when you're sleeping, there's a huge portion of your sleep that is a very deep sleep where you're not thinking, you're not in your head, you're fine, nothing happens to you. You could stop thinking right now and just observe and look around you. You wouldn't die, nothing would happen. You'd be okay. So when you realize thinking is not always essential, learn to have phases where you think and phases where you just observe. A greater part of the experience is to observe. Observe your mind, observe your thoughts, observe your soul, observe your body, observe anything, any feeling that can tell you a little bit more about yourself is so crucial. It is so important. That is the way to live, because if you're always living up here, then you're not living at all. So if you follow these two things, I'm sure you'll be able to become a professional underthinker, right? I went from an overthinker. Let's go back up here. I went from being like Bob, who is an overthinker, who thinks and worries about everything. And I learned to switch off my brain and become like John, who is an underthinker, who just takes action. When I was making my first video, of course I was nervous. Of course it was the first time I was putting my face on camera, but I just took action. The amount of times I've taken action without thinking and a good result has come from it, and it's always resulted in a positive outcome. So if you're watching till here, you definitely want more from this life. You're ambitious and you're driven. You want success and you want to live a good life. Everybody wants that. But since you're here, you're actually serious about it. Because the difference between you and the average person is the average person wants these things but does nothing about it. You want this thing, but you do something about it. That's why you're watching these videos. It makes sense. You see, the truth is, you find yourself slipping up, spending more time on your phone, procrastinating and wasting time. So even though you are doing something about it, the unfortunate truth is that you have no proper accountability to guide you. And what happens is that even with the right intentions, you slip up, you do the things you swore against, you waste your time, you don't work on the thing that you know you wanted to work on, and it's not your fault. It is fixable, but the reason they happen is because you don't have a community. You need a community. You need people to talk to for advice, for guidance, for accountability. You need accountability, which is something you probably don't have right now. And you need the right systems. And obviously, this is a shameless paid promotion of my private community. You see, all of these things I offer are inside Discipline OS, which is a community. New members are joining every single week. So inside Discipline OS, I have high-level masterclass videos for reshifting identity, for self-image hacking, for mental reframing, how to build discipline, how to be consistent, and all of these things that are gonna basically take you from Bob to John, right? And there's a community, we talk, you can ask for advice, you can share your insights, and it just makes things more fun, because if you're doing everything alone, you're gonna be lonely. And I was lonely. I was doing so many things alone for so long, but then I realized that I can just do it with somebody else and it would be that much better, right? Better results, faster results, and it's more fun. So why wouldn't you? If you want to work with me and make it impossible to not reach your goals and be consistent and disciplined, check the first link in the description. So that's all for this video. I hope this helped you. I hope you got value from this video. Make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. You got this.